this to the cloud, and now I can share my screen, and my slides are all messed up. Okay, now we're back. And so this is advice from a new faculty member's perspective, and there are 10 things that an early career person could run into difficulty and so forth. And Meina is going to talk about some of them. Meina.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Bonk, for the invitation. It's a great honor for me to be here and to have share my writing tips and also take questions from you later on. As an early career faculty member, there are several tips I want to share with you. First is related to setting goals. Second is related to setting strategic plans, and the reflection, collaboration, professional development, and research folks. Dr. Bonk. So first is writing goals. So currently you may are working on your dissertation, and you may want to have a goal. So when do you plan to do your dissertation proposal defense? If you have the deadline, and then you can do the backward design. Like so, if you want to do a defense in the May, then you should at least finish the final draft like in the April, and then you also have to maybe at least have this writing done for your advisor to review it by March. So you make this kind of plan based on your final goal. So it's important for you to set up the goals for your dissertation or other research project. Next, please. So as I mentioned before, based on your goal, then you should set a strategic plan regarding when you should finish each part. And then it's also important, like not only you have this long-term goal, you may want to have this short goal as well. So you may want to have for each week, you have the task that you have to finish for each week. You can make that use your Google Calendar to make the plan. And then the third strategy is to have a reflection on your writing after you write a certain paragraph or some articles. Then you have to reflect on, is this a part that I want to include in my article, in my dissertation? Next, please. And then these are the top journals that I or Dr. Bonk and our research group published during the past few years. And then so we said it's from easier to most difficult experience. It's just from our personal experience. It doesn't mean everything is really easy or real difficult. So open practice it's mainly focused on open OER, open education, and tech trends is very popular in our field. A lot of readers read this journal. And then there are some journals which are very difficult. They may have like 3 or 2 more than like many rounds of review. For example, British Journal of Education Technology or Journal of Computing in Higher Education. So once you
Computers in Ed, which I've never published in. There's some journals Meina's never published in. They're really hard. And some of these we have published in are really hard. Just sometimes it's luck of the like, a little bit of luck, a little bit of persistence, right, Meina?
Yes. Thank you, Dr. Next, please. The fourth strategy I want to share with you is writing with your collaborator. Next slide, please, Dr. Bonk. So for writing collaboration, I would suggest you to build and maintain the relationship. Sometimes you may start one project with one person if you like this person, and then your skills, like you really need each other's skills, then you should maintain the relationship and keep working on research collaboration. And respect the diverse cultural background and perspective. Sometimes you may come from different cultural background or that have different skills or subject areas that you should respect each other. And second is to set clear guidelines and instructions to book authors at the beginning. So when Dr. Bonk and we worked with the authors from people around the world, and then Dr. Bonk set the guidelines or instructions to the authors. Maybe Dr. Bonk will want to add on this part.
We work with people and try and set, as with this class, you have a deadline, but we be a little flexible, and you'll get some manuscripts if you do an edited book, which I really recommend you do. it can get your reputation out there, but you have some people get in early, some people get in on time, and some people are a little bit late, and that's okay because you can't edit all papers or all chapters in a book at once. You can't, if you have a 40 chapter book, you can't do 40 at once anyway. So you kind of be flexible. You have a guideline. You can put the deadline a little bit early so that you know you have a little extra cushion on there. Also, some students, if you work on a team, have different connotations of what plagiarism is. And so if you're working with students from India or some other countries, they might not be as aware of the times in which they're plagiarizing. So you might have to educate your own team members as to what plagiarism is and isn't. And of course, there's the IU website for teaching people about plagiarism, which you all took in week 1. But there are cultural differences or norms, even in terms of time of day when they're working on things, showing up for meetings on time. Some cultures, they show up 5 minutes early or right on time. If you're on my team, you always know, I show up 2 minutes late, always, or 3 minutes late. Meina says, oh no, yeah, he's always 5 minutes late. So, in some cultures, showing up 10 minutes late is like being on time. So there's cultural differences and nuances in working with things. But make sure you get the authorship order of authorship in agreement with everyone, because some people just assume they'll be first author, and they might not do a lot of work to deserve to be first author. So, have that in mind. At this point in my career, I really don't care where I am. But yeah, so some people in early career have to be concerned about where they might be in the authorship order. So, respect people's, cultural norms and expectations, but just come to a prayer agreement on things. So there's an article. Do you want to talk about this, Meina, or you want me to?
Oh, you can talk about this, Dr. Bonk.
So in the Inside Higher Ed, Jordan McNeil had an article a few years ago that talked just about this, about setting up the norms, about the authorship order, and about who's going to be in charge of the final edits and writing the ending. You can figure out in quick order who's got skills in doing methods, or who wants to do the literature review, who might be good at writing limitations, and you all might do your piece and then put it together and revise that way. But you have someone who might be the leader, reminding everyone of the deadlines or the due dates, who might track the changes, who might be the corresponding author. When you submit to a journal, they're the corresponding author. And the corresponding author isn't always the first author. The corresponding author might be the third author. And in Korean culture, to be the corresponding author is more important than being the first author. They have a point system where they, and then do respond to feedback that you get in a very professional manner. I mean, Meina's really good about saying thank you and all this stuff to the authors and trying to have a pleasant tone. The more pleasant you can be with the editor, the increases your chance of publication. If you're really mad at them for what they say, just be mad at your computer or your coffee mug or something else. Don't be mad at the editors. Just, you can take out your frustration and hit your bottle of water many times or knock yourself on the head, but don't be mad at the editors. Don't show your frustration, because that's just not going to do you any good at all. You can disagree with them. You can say, that was not something we studied, or we disagree with what the reviewers had said. Here's what we've done. But don't say, oh, the reviewers are idiots, whoever review, and I have seen people do this. So just, be careful in that regard. Be cautious, err on the side of being nice to someone else, and positive tone, professional. And if they send you a due date for sending things back, if you need a couple more days, a lot of times you have to turn it in by that date because they're trying to schedule it for publication. But, in some cases, you can get a couple extra days, the extra month. You might have had your kids, were sick and need amoxicillin like Megan's right now. You can tell the editor that, and they'll give you extra time. And that's okay. Things come up, and they're understanding of that. Meina, you want to add to that?
Yeah, I agree that it's important to respect the reviewers and the editors. They spend time on reviewing your papers without getting paid or anything.
Okay, so you might have a list sheet in front of you of all the ways you can say thank you. You just want to say thank you all the time. You might say, that's a good point, or I hadn't thought of this, or really great insight from the reviewers. So when I wrote my book, The World is Open, I had a page or 2 pages my son created. He took a look at Thomas Friedman's book, The World is Flat, and wrote all the transitions that were interesting that he had in the book, just the transitionary phrases. And I had all these transitions next to me when I sat down to write my book. And I rewrote these. I didn't use them exactly, but they helped me form transitions. Well, the same thing is true revising manuscripts. You can have a whole list of words you could say that are nice that you could say to the editor. Just use different words. You look up in a thesaurus and find those different phrases and how to say thank you. Believe me, that thank you is the most important word in getting published. It overrides every other word, but you don't want to just say thank you. You want to say other things as well. Meina?
Yeah, we have talked about research collaboration. Maybe you're wondering why I have to collaborate with others. There are several advantages. First, it can improve the quality of your research because you have the person who help you review and revise the paper while you're working on it. And also it can extend your research relationship and network in the field and also even in different field. For example, if you work on something related to computer science education, you may collaborate with a professor in computer science area. Then it helps you can share expertise from different field. And also it can enhance the scientific and publishing productivity. For example, if you work on one study, if you have to you have to devote 100% of the time on it. If you have a collaborator, then you get you have two of you, then each of you can contribute to 50%. So this can increase possibly your publication productivity. And also it can help you with disseminating the result of the finding. And then next, yeah. So how can you build a collaboration with others? How can you find the collaborators? First, you may want to identify the skills that you have, how you can offer in the collaboration, and also identify the needs of your research. So what kind of skills that you don't have, but you need somebody else to contribute to this research. And then you find the people who are in this field who have these kind of skills that you need, and then you can introduce yourself. Or you can, once you get to know each other and then start to collaborate with each other, as Dr. Bonk mentioned at the beginning, you should set expectations at the beginning of the collaboration, who want to be the first author, who will be the second author, etc. But this is not the fixed sequence of the authorship. You can change through the collaboration process. If someone contributed more during this collaboration, then you change the authorship. And then you can leverage some tools for collaboration. There are a lot of tools, like you can use Zoom and you can use Google Documents to collaborate with each other. And also keep communicating with each other. Sometimes, as Dr. Bonk mentioned before, if there are some changes, then you should let your collaborators know. Or if you couldn't commit this or finish this by a certain deadline, then you should let your collaborators know, because they may have their own schedule as well. And also, when you collaborate with others, if you get rejected with your publication, then you shouldn't be discouraged, and then just keep working and keep submitting to other journals. That's about collaboration. Next,
I'll add to that sometimes your collaboration team wants to meet every week and you don't want to meet every week. But the first couple times, go ahead and meet every week for a couple, and you'll find that the team ends up saying, "Well, we don't need to meet every week." They'll end up, but when you read to the first week or second week, to come to those first couple meetings, you'll see after the first couple meetings, everyone's on the same page. They're able to work without meeting, but early meetings are important, I guess is the point. And then meeting, of course, before your presentation at a conference and that kind of thing. Meina, do you use anything like Mendeley or EndNote?
I use Mendeley for collaboration.
Okay. Do your team members use Mendeley as well?
Yes, if I work on some research project, then need to use that.
Okay.
So the fifth suggestion is to get professional development whenever you need new skills. For example, when you work on your dissertation, you may need some data analysis skills that you are not familiar with right now, and then you through this process, this will not. You shouldn't let this kind of if you don't have this skill, then you will not work on this kind of research. Then you can just learn, so keep learning that as always.
Yeah.
Next,
So,
please.
so you've learned learning analytics for free,
Mhm.
and
Mhm.
and some
MOOCs.
and MOOCs. You learn about MOOCs. All our research from taking some PD related to MOOCs and learning analytics and computer programming. And so Meina's done a lot of PD that's helped her become a better researcher. And you went to North Carolina State for what was a big data little.
There's a laser professional development opportunity. Yeah. So, and then last is right now you may work on 1 or 2 research projects, and also you may want to make sure that you have your main research line. Like if you have your main research line, then you can build your academic identity in the field. Then when people see you, oh, this is a person who are expert in massive online courses like Dr. Bonk or online education. Yeah, so be clear with your research directions.
And
Next, from
if you become an academic scholar, most people try and get 2 or 3 strands or themes to what their interests are. Some people just have one and they go at one, but usually people pick 2 or 3 strands, maybe 4 areas that they're interested in. So so I'm just curious in the chat window if you could type in any of those tips resonate with you, or any tips that you could think of that you might want to add to what we've said so far. Is there anything else that you could think of that you might add to that list? And while you're doing that, I'll queue up the next section, I think. Be sure everyone's on the same page. Yeah, just some people get frustrated in your team and just think that we're not making progress, and they don't realize that behind the scenes, people are collecting data. They're writing kind of short snippets for a literature review. It might not be in the paper yet, but they've done that and they're ready to go. So it's just getting everyone up to date. Some meetings can be very short. Team meetings. Some can be just 5-10 minutes and everyone's on their way. They don't need to be long. Just getting everyone to feel like they understand what the other sub teams are working on. So right now, my Nepal study, we have 2 sub teams every week, and Meina's on one of those. And it's one sub team's looking at the data on teachers and what they're providing for English supports and one team's on the student side analyzing the data. So, divide up your teams in a logical fashion. So Megan says, I just think in general, if someone wants to publish, it's helpful to find a mentor, reach out to an advisor. Advisors can help, but there are others that can help just as well, but advisors. So, the advisor can at least get you started, and we'll have and all. So in Dropbox is all these writing articles you can download and read whatever ones you want. Pick a couple that are interesting to you. The links to all the articles are in these PowerPoints. So if you're interested in one of these articles on 8 tips for dissertation writing, which I presented in weeks 2 and 3, I noticed that the first couple of weeks, so I did mostly dissertation tips, writing tips. So you might want to download those and take a read on them after the semester ends. So, okay. Thank you, Kim. Anyone want to voice anything before I go to the next part? Any comments? One of you, I'd like to hear from one of you. Give me a comment.
I think it's just important to maintain connection with all the professional relationship I have. I feel like personally I'm not pursuing a faculty role, but ever since I started working on my dissertation, it's fun to do some research, and I totally understand the benefit of having a collaborator and using everybody's strengths to work on different parts. So I think that's definitely something I will look into my future career.
And I co-dissertated. I had a colleague. We created a keystroke mapping system and a computer prompting system, and he studied college students. I studied middle school. Totally different studies, but we organized ourselves, so we created a model of writing and all that. We kind of ignored our advisors. We told them what we were doing. We used our advisors as a sounding board on things. And so we took charge. And your advisors would be happy if you take charge of things that you don't have to, handhold your way every way through, but they're willing to do that at the same point. So, when I say co-dissertating, we each wrote, our own individual documents, but we shared every step along the way with each other. So, you don't have to be all alone in your little island apart from one another. About 1999 or 2000, we had 3 students studying communities of practice in online environments, how to create communities. I said, you can talk to each other. They thought they couldn't talk to each other. They had to be a separate, do their own dissertation and all that. It's like, share your articles with each other, at least, what you found, you could help each other in that regard. So there's a misnomer that you got to be a lonely person on this journey, but you should have some kinds of support, even if it's just family support or your dog supporting you, Shannon. So let me go to the next part here, the hot streak. So I've been fortunate to be on a hot streak lately when it comes to publishing. So I want to share a few things about the hot streak. And it's been since the pandemic started. I've had 30 articles, journal articles published, or in press, and a number of books and whatnot. So some factors that went to hot streak, just persistence. Persistence wins the day. I used to give up on too many things. I gave up on a lot of the good stuff that's never been published. So just be willing to come back to it and take another look at it and say, yeah, it's going to get published somewhere. Contemporary educational technology is an easier journal than some of the other ones. The Turkish Journal of Online and what was that Turkish one we're published in Meina? It's a bit easier. It's open access too. Than some of the other ones that you might find out there. They're more arduous. So there are tier 1, tier 2, tier 3. So persistence, just focus on what you can do now. Don't get petrified about the future too much. You have to plan for that future. I have my planner here, but focus on what you can do today or this afternoon, one thing at a time, one step at a time. Assemble the best team or the best resources that work for you. There's now 8 billion people in the world as of last week, not just 7 billion. You only need to be working with 4 or 5 good people, and you should be able to find 4 or 5 out of 8 billion. There's a lot of people on the planet. Don't work with the people who are hard to work with. Find somebody in grad school now that you like working with and have them as your partner for a long time. Make sure the roles are clearly defined and distinctive, so that that Dr. Bonk will be writing the conclusions or limitations. That's what he's good at. Might have someone else do something else. Intense and relaxed planning. So intensively plan on the front end, then release those plans. Don't just have things laid out on the front end as thoroughly as you can, and then relax those kinds of things later on. Explore all my journals. Just take a look at those journals and say, that looks interesting. And then commit to one and look at the requirements, the word requirements, the date requirements. Figures are set up, the APA 7 or 6 or whatever. Now, for me, every once in a while, I try and be bold. So I set some goals for myself to have so many things published during 2020. And I had last year, how many articles I got out in December last year. I had a goal and I hit the goals. So set yourself up. There's a guy named Timothy Ferriss who wrote the 4-Day Work the 4-hour work week. He set bold goals for himself. Now, I don't work just 4 hours. I'm not like Timothy Ferris, but he said to set bold goals. Revel in the luck. Don't sulk in the bad luck. You're gonna have a lot of bad luck along the way. Just be happy when you have good luck. I took a couple of my students, Christian and Bo, for my 620 class. We went to Lenny's and celebrated. I don't know what we celebrate, but you have to celebrate once in a while. So you plan the view. So in my office, I have 4 calendars on the walls: October, November, December, and January. And I can look and I say, what I'm going to be working on. What did I work on last month? What's this month? What's next month? What's the month after? So I actually have 4 big, huge, humongous calendars, and that's helped a lot. Some people like to have 1 calendar, some like 6 calendars, some like a pocket planner, some like a digital planner, but somewhere you should have the plans. For me, I like visuals. I like to hold things in my hand. Digital planners are okay, check in on once in a while, but I don't like to rely on digital calendars. Others do. Pocket planner, notes in your pocket. So I love having pieces of note paper in my pocket that has plans, or a timeline on my refrigerator, or on the garage door. Have a timeline of what Ben's going to be working on. And then move those planners ahead every month when it comes to the end of the month, and then reflect on what you've done. Track your progress on what got finished, what didn't get finished. Reflect back on 1999 or on 2019, 2020. Be willing to say yes, but be more willing to say no to things when people ask you to do things. Don't do a lot of OPPs, other people's projects. Try to do your own projects. And then check your goals, recheck your goals, and recheck them again. So hot streaks are loaded with sometimes. Sometimes it takes a while to publish, like this article here. Addressing learned cultural diversity. Took us a few years, Meina said. And then I said, Meina, why don't you become first author? And I know we'll get it done. Meina decided, well, I could be first author on this. She revised it. We submitted to a different journal. Boom, it was done. I just reassigned who was in charge. The person who was in charge had other difficulties, health included difficulties. And so we had to change who was in charge. Meina, do you want to talk about this article at all?
Yeah, I don't have anything to add. Yeah.
Okay. It was a big team. All these were IST, doctoral students from different countries. So sometimes it takes a while. You just have to be patient. And other times it's quick, like this article. We had collected extra data in Meina's dissertation, and it was a quantitative study. So quantitative studies are faster oftentimes to analyze and publish than qualitative. Qualitative are often more fun and more interesting, but quantitative data, some places like ETR&D and the British Journal of EdTech tend to like quantitative data, and they're quicker to get published sometimes, not always. Sometimes it's both, fast and slow. It can get in the Journal of Computer and Higher Ed online first, but in print, it might take a couple years. So sometimes online, this in fact happened to us, Meina and I, we had our 15 guidelines published online first last week, but in print, it might take a couple of months. So it can be both fast and slow. Sometimes you have to try for the high-level journals, even though I didn't think Meina, when she asked me to do the work on this paper with her, I thought, this is not a top-tier set of data. I'm sorry, Meina, but it really was a top-tier journal because she had different ways of analyzing computer discourse, online discussions in Canvas or wherever. She had 3 different ways to analyze the data, and the editor loved it. And Susan Herring, who was her instructor, she trained Meina well to analyze this data. We got in Distance Ed, a top-tier journal. The editor of that journal, Meina Zhu, came to my Monday night class. In fact, he really likes this article. And sometimes you have to try SSCI, Social Science Citation Index. Hard, and you might get lucky. Sometimes you go for best exposure. So the International Journal or Review of Research on Open and Distributed Ed, IRRODL, they used to publish pictures of the authors. They no longer do, but it's a top-tier journal and it's open access. And it was good exposure. They had our bios, pictures. It was great. It was free and open. Sometimes they prefer quantitative data like the British Journal. I said this earlier. Sometimes they prefer qualitative data like the qualitative report does, where Meina and I, or actually Merve, who presented in Europe a few weeks ago, and I have published. Meina and I published with Anissa Sari, a grad student in IST, a PhD student, on MOOCs in Malaysia and Indonesia, where apparently the language is very similar between Malaysia and Indonesia. And so I didn't realize that. And we got it published in a top tier journal, but it was years it took them to but once I asked the editor nicely about the status of the article, all of a sudden it got published online first. You have to be, but you also have to nudge the editors once in a while. Sometimes you have to go to Canada. And so we have one article published in Canada, maybe a couple actually. IRODL is Canadian as well. The Canadian Journal of Learning Technologies is a good journal. It's not SSCI, but it should be. It's a very good journal, and it's open access. I have high respect for any journal in Canada because they're way ahead of us in terms of ed tech, because it's such a big country. They have to do distance learning. They've been doing it for a long, long time. They have some of the best researchers in the world up in Canada. Sometimes there's a secret entrance, and that entrance might be a special issue. So Online Learning Journal, where I'm working on a special issue right now for coming out in March, they have special issue in December every year for the best AERA papers. And twice Meina and I have gotten in this journal. They've had a call. They asked for the best, those people that presented at AERA, could you submit your paper? And twice they've accepted us, and it was rather fast because they have to get it done by December. So sometimes you wait forever and ever, but if you get in a special journal like this, and I highly recommend this, you'll know it's going to come out this year. You might present at AERA in April, you might write up the full paper in June or July, and by December, it's out. It's been reviewed twice. I mean, I really like, Meina, do you want to comment on any of this I've said?
Yeah, so online, if you're research interested in online education, then Online Learning Journal is a great journal that you should publish.
In fact, this week is the Online Learning Accelerate or Innovate conference. They have two conferences. It's in Orlando at Disney Village. So I highly recommend becoming a member of Online Learning Consortium. And here's why. They got a top journal. It's not SSCI, but it will be. Number two, it's been around for a while. They have all the universities, and it's not just researchers who go. It's the tech departments, like the teaching and learning centers of all sorts of campuses around the country and around the world. So you hear from people who are in the trenches, who are instructional designers, might be researchers, might be supervisors, might be even the university deans and presidents. So Online Learning Consortium, Accelerate and Innovate. And it's at Disney, the fall conference. The other one is anywhere, it could be anywhere, the spring conference. And if you're an IU graduate student, you get this for free. You get membership in Online Learning Consortium for free. And you can attend the virtual conference for free. Now, the face-to-face one is expensive. So if you want to go to Disney and hang out, Ben, like Ben wants to do, and so forth, well, unfortunately, at this point, you still have to pay for the conference if you go for the face-to-face. But anyways, I gave you 4 or 5 reasons to join OLC. Free, and good journal, and great people, and networking. It's not like this intensive research conference. It's kind of like good stuff is presented, but you're not like at American Education Research Association. It's all, you have to dress real nicely and properly. These are all people going to Disney and going to swimming pools, you know? They do dress nicely, don't get me wrong, but they got great exhibit hall. You can hear, I mean, have I convinced you? Put in the chat windows, write yes if I've convinced you so far, because it's free. No, number 11. Sometimes you have to contact the editor. Sometimes things are in review for so long. This one, we're trying to get in a special issue. We had minor revisions. We made them, and we didn't hear anything back. And finally, we wrote to the editor of the special issue about 8 months in. So we saw other papers starting to come out for the special issue in online first. And we're wondering, what happened to our paper? Well, it got lost. This happens. Sometimes they just lose track of things. And so the editor said, I'm going to read it myself. And he read it himself. I like this paper. I'll publish it. It had been reviewed. We made the changes. The editor read it. Boom, it's out. So this has happened again recently to me, and it's going to happen again. So contacting the editors before, if it's taking a long time to get reviewed, but after the reviews have been done and you've made the changes, you've sent it back in, and it's taking a few more months, you can say to the editor, well, we've made the changes, what's happened? Several times this has happened to me where the editor just couldn't get another reviewer and will say, I'll just review it myself, and that's great. That's great. Number 10, sometimes you have to send to an easier journal like Contemporary Educational Technology, which Meina and I did for a case study of design practices of novice instructional designers. And it's open access. It's nice to have this one out there. It's a theory to practice kind of paper. It's a great paper. Meina writes well, Merve writes well. But we just couldn't get it published somewhere else. And so we took a second tier. Sometimes you're selected. So there's a conference that Meina and I had a paper in, and they picked our paper for a special issue. So sometimes when you present at a conference like the AERA one I mentioned earlier, you can get selected for the journal. So my friend Sanjay Mishra, who was my guest last night in my other class, he works for the Commonwealth of Learning, which is in Vancouver, Canada. They had a conference in Edinburgh. I presented, and he said, we want this to be in our journal, the Journal of Learning for Development. It's an open access journal. I said, well, it's great. So we actually didn't plan, we published we had to rewrite our other papers to have this, fit, because we already had tried publishing other pieces elsewhere. So there's Sanjay and I at the PCF9 conference in Edinburgh. And Sam Nadu is in Edinburgh, and that's Sam, who's the editor of Dis and Zed. That's us in Edinburgh as well, 3 years ago, before the pandemic. He said, Curt, it's about the same time, says, I would like to get an article from you on the pandemic, what's going on. And so sometimes you're invited to write these theoretical overview pieces. So I wrote about synchronous learning 30 years ago and about synchronous learning during the pandemic and the changes I saw. Synchronous signals, saviors, and survivors. It's a good little piece. It's open access, it's theory-driven, conceptual pieces. So you don't have to just publish research. You can publish conceptual pieces sometimes, or meta-analyses of the research. And you can see we're having a little fun there before the conference. All the, that's Sharanika, Samnadu's best colleague in Sri Lanka. I did something for them as well. The lady in red there is Asha Kanwar, the president of the Commonwealth of Learning in Vancouver. And so, yeah, the guy in the middle there, that is Sugata Mitra. Sugata Mitra created the hole-in-the-wall technology, getting the kids in Mumbai to teach each other about computers by sticking computers in the slums of Mumbai and Delhi. He's known for his TED Talks and known for the Granny Cloud, having grandmothers in the UK teach kids in India every week, give up 1 hour of time to mentor kids in India. He's created the SOUL, self-organized learning environments, having kids teach each other about technology. He's like a brilliant man. And the guy next to him is Sir John Daniels. He's been knighted by the Queen. He was the head of the Open U in the UK, the British Open University, which is very successful, very prominent. The guy to the right-hand side, if you can see him, that is a person who wrote the book on digital immigrants versus digital natives. His name is Mark Prensky. So in that picture, there's a bunch of pretty well-known folks. I'm trying to see if there's anyone next to Mark Prensky. Oh, he's the last one next over there. Okay. So anyways, so sometimes you just have to try Tech Trends. Tech Trends is a good journal. It's not a great journal. It's pretty good though. It's gotten better over time. Sometimes you try it. Sometimes there's those journals out there. it's good exposure. Everyone gets it for free who joins AECT. So it's good exposure. Often your qualifying exams come from an article in Tech Trends, because Dr. Brush likes to pick articles in Tech Trends and make them in your qualifying exam day one. So it's good to read Tech Trends because it might be your qualifying exam. And they're shorter a little bit. They're informative. They'll tell you about the field and what's happening. Yeah. Sometimes you have to be part of a bigger team. Like I've been on one this past week that got published on ebooks, a systematic review of the research on ebooks with my friends at Beijing Normal University, where Meina got her master's degree. They asked me to help. I didn't do a lot. I just helped at the end. And same with this article, my friends at South China Normal. Meina knows the first author because she was a visiting scholar when Meina started at IU. Her name is John, her American name. She asked me to help on an article on knowledge sharing, and I did. And interactive learning environments took that paper. It took our paper on ebooks this week. If anyone wants to read our new meta-analysis of the effect of ebooks, I'm happy to send it to you. That journal's good because it comes out online first right away, but it takes 2 years for it to come out in print. So sometimes you're part of a bigger team. Sometimes it gets published at the last minute. This article, we waited for a year, 2 years, maybe. And I'm like, it'll never get published. I can in 2021, I'm just like so mad. I'm so mad. December 31st, 2021, this got published. Literally on the last day of the year to get into my annual report. I'm like, okay, you know, sometimes it did. So I inquired to the editor. The editor of this journal was, who was the editor? I went to grad school with him. He was one of my best friends. And he may have had something to help, but I don't think so. I think it was just it was published by John Wiley, and they were just taking their good old time about publishing. Sometimes your data just fits the issue. So sometimes you submit and it fits what the issue is looking for, which would happen in this case, Journal of Computer Assisted Learning, a top tier journal. We were looking at the COVID-19 pandemic and looking at self-efficacy and technology use and, you know, engagement, and it was just fit. Sometimes you have to make a suggestion. So this article, I said, well, we're working on a special issue of EdTech, ETRD, Educational Technology Research and Development. And I said to my co-editors, I would really like to write an article with David Wiley summarizing the last 3 decades of EdTech. And I'd like to put it in the special issue. I think it would make a good beginning, a preface for all these summary articles to make a nice overview. And the co-editor said, well, that's a great idea. Let's do that. And I said, why don't we get Tom Rees, a real famous guy at Georgia, and Dr. Lin from the University of North Texas to write the closing, the ending, like the afterword. So we'll write the preface, and then there'll be a closing piece, a post article. And that both got in there like bookends. And ETRD thought, let's make them free. So they made, this costs money, this journal costs money. They made the beginning and end free. And so those have been cited a lot. And so this piece and my pandemic pondering piece and my 15 guideline piece with Meina are 3 pieces that are overview pieces that I could give to my brother or sister or to my mother if she was alive. You know, if you all would want to read these, I'm happy to send. These are 3, I think 3 kind of nice articles that don't involve research data. Sometimes the paper is expected. Sometimes if you go to a conference, they expect you to write a paper. And it's particularly true in Korea and here in this one in New Zealand. There's certain countries where if you go, they expect you're going to turn that invited talk into a paper for them, for their journal. And it's hard to do. I mean, when I learned my lesson once, I'm like going to Korea and I'm like so tired. You know, that's all I could do is just preparing my slides, and they want a full paper. I mean, but once it's done, it's done. And this one's on 30 ways learning is changing. I'm still using that. So in your chat there, what of those hot streak items might help you create? Help you in terms of writing? What have I said there? So I got a lot of yeses in there. Okay, great. Yeah, if you want the article. So soon May, remind me to send people the article on ebooks. On ebook, the new article. Yeah. So what things could help you all? And then I'll go to part 3. We're almost done here, I think. Yeah. Work with people. So Kim, go ahead and read that for me while I adjust my slides. Go ahead, Kim, unmute.
So work with people that will help you rather than hinder you. Life is too short to work with people you cannot get along with. I know this is something I'm actively working on right now. And for sure, I would like to be able to go and reach out to people who might not be in my core group or area for collaboration, because my main interest as a faculty member is animal science. So and then I also want to make a plug that even though you might not consider going into academia, I never thought I would ever be a professor, ever. It was just something that came up, and it was an opportunity that presented itself. And I'm so glad that I was able to take that bull by the horns. But you should never discount that as being a possible thing, especially if you have tenure, because that is something that you can't get at other positions.
And you can take time off like Kim has done and come to Bloomington and eat chocolate mousse ice cream. And go to Lenny's with us or wherever. Ashot, we haven't heard from you much tonight. Any comments about what you've heard so far?
It's quite helpful. Just I've got so much going on right now. So yeah.
You're in the midst of grading papers, probably. I believe.
Yeah, there's that. Hubby just started a new job in DC, so I'm home with 2 kids.
Your husband moved to DC, or oh man.
Yeah. So yeah.
Well, there's
Yeah.
lots of jobs in DC. So what kind of job did your husband get?
Oh, he's an engineer with the Navy. He left Crane and went to the main place over there. So
Great. Congrats.
DoD. Yeah, thanks.
That's big time.
Oh yeah, it's a lot of work. I'm doing school run and all that, and yeah, it's a lot. I would love to work with everybody in my group one way or the other. Sumi has been exceptionally helpful, as usual. Thank you, Rachel. You have no idea what that list did for me. It kept me on track. So I'm actually doing something now, thanks to that. So yeah, looking through your list of publications and all that, frankly, I was a bit jealous. Like, whoa, doing this and doing that. Oh, we have so much going on that when you see things like this, you're like, how come I can't do that? You know? Yeah, I guess we'll get there eventually.
Just the friendships help. Networks definitely help. You know,
Yeah.
I have Meina on my team. You know, I'm not trading her. I'm not exchanging her. She's got to stay on my team. I have Meina Zhu in Korea on my team. So a couple of people are just, right now we have a doctoral student named Shishi, and Shishi's doing great stuff. I mean, she's just, so the team helps. But then advice from your advisors help. Time helps because ideas percolate in your brain for a while. So Rachel, you have a comment on there. Rachel.
Yeah, I was thinking about things. I think you said this in a previous session as well, is when you're already doing something, make it do double duty. And I just think about all of the collaborative presentations that I've given in the past that we all just let go. We didn't write anything up about it. We could have gotten published. A lot of the even smaller events that I presented at have a publication, even if it's just a newsletter to that group. And we should have thought about writing something up about it. And then future ones, I am starting to think about how could I link to that somehow in a written form to get something closer to publishing.
I think we could take the 8 students in this class and every one of them could come up with a couple of advices for the next class, and we could have a 15, you know, kind of guidelines on how to succeed in dissertation proposal writing class, and publish that somewhere in Tech Trends or some other journal. We could easily write an article about, you know, dissertation prep, given the people we have in this class. It's not something I had thought about previously, but we could do it. Any other comments before we go to, I'm going to show my space of writing, and Meina's going to show her space. Any other comments? Kim has her hand up, so I'm just wondering if no?
I think you guys shouldn't get down on yourselves, you know, at all. And we're just, think of it, you're doing a doctorate and you have 2 kids and you got all this stuff like right there. That's amazing. So you should pat yourself on the back because you have done so much, and that is incredible. And you all are incredible people.
But you've not passed until you come to Bloomington for Mother Bear Pizza and chocolate mousse ice cream. But then you officially can pass Bloomington. And we're spreading some love here tonight, I can see. Okay, so let me look at the next one. I've got a little cartoon strip character here, Snoopy, saying, you know, basically what you all are saying. Those years in Paris were to be among the finest of her life. Looking back, she once remarked, those years in Paris were among the finest of her life. That's what she said when she looked back upon all those years in Paris, where she spent the finest years. I think this is going to require some editing. Okay, yeah. Well, Meina, you know, walk us through your writing space.
So this is a writing space at Wayne State University. That's my office. I think this is my office. This is my home. Yeah. So and then this is my office, and I think having a working space that you like is very important for your research in the work. Next, please. So for the virtual space, usually I use Google Drive or OneDrive, which is free, offered by Wayne State University. And for collaboration, I use Mendeley to share articles with my collaborators. There are different tools that you can explore that's appropriate for yourself. And also we have already talked about have plans and goals. Next, please. And then also it's very important to have writing partners and mentors like Dr. Bonk is my advisor, and he's very supportive, as you may see in this class and in different settings. So it's important to have great mentors when you work on your research or publication. Next.
They might notice Dr. Kwan in there too.
Yeah.
And
so yeah, a lot of Dr. Kwan, Dr. O, and Dr. L. I have, and Professor Bowling. They're all very supportive. Yeah, I have worked with all the great professors from IU. I really appreciate that.
Yeah, and the woman who's in the middle, smack dab next to Meina, there is Yoon Joanne, who's an alum of the IST program in the department chair at the University of North Texas right now. So my space was kind of a mess, as you can see, but I have a hydraulic desk, goes up and down, and lately my back has really been sore. And yesterday in a dentist chair, because my dentist wanted to take out 3 old fillings and put 3 new ones in. I will say I was on Valium. The only way I could get through it with the back issue I have, and she wants to replace 2 others next week. I don't know if I can make it through it. But anyways, I go up and down. It's a nice little hydraulic thing. But look at what a mess it was in my office. So yeah, the hydraulics is good. I can look out in the forest. I have a forest in the backyard, a creek. I plow through keyboards like you would know. Now there are little, you can put new letters on them, which will save you $70. I have my daughter sitting next to me, her picture when she was little, all those stacks of paper. And if I need a beer, it's sitting there. If I, you know, hopefully I don't need it to. You see all the calendars on the wall there? So, you know, I've got all these calendars. I got more than what's, so I got 3 more by the clock there. So now I have like 4 calendars on the side of the wall there. The little artwork that you see, the castle my son did in kindergarten, it's still on my wall. He's like 35 years old or whatever he is. So, you know, I saved that. So look at all the stacks of stuff just wrapped around. Now this is the new office I cleaned this summer. So that's totally revived. And you can see outside in the forest in the back there and so forth. And you can see, you know, my new and improved office. And now the pool table, I have all my books and stuff on. That's been cleaned up as well. So my man cave and whatnot, where I work from, is much improved. So you see, I had like 17 suitcases of stuff I took to recycling from my office at IU, and then I took 15 from my office at home. So I took 52 suitcases of articles and whatnot to the recycling center this past December, January, February, last fall. So, you know, yeah, it's all been cleaned up. I have this also has been cleaned up, my bookshelf and whatnot. And then I have a place I can go outside and I can relax and read dissertations looking over the creek in the back and finding a place that I can just get away and read. And then I, you know, also want to point out, as someone else said, I think Kim or might have said it, or Rachel, pick your mentors wisely. So the guy on the left, or next to me, the older gentleman, his name is Brian Ford. Brian Ford was the head of Mensa in the UK. So he's a pretty smart guy. He was also on the BBC. He was also a game show host for kids' games, like a spelling, that wasn't spelling, but a game show. He also has 30 books, including The Future of Food, The Intelligence of a Single Cell, Secret Weapons of Nazi Germany. But he got interested in online learning when I went to the UK in 2004 or 5. So I was mentoring him in online learning, and he mentors me in other things. So it's a nice match. The British government gave him a lot of money to study online learning because he was a smart guy. He never passed college, but he was a Cambridge professor. He dropped out and he studies microbiology. So he looks at the live cells, and Leeuwenhoek, the first guy that had a microscope, he found some of Leeuwenhoek's original slides and did many papers on them. He's also got many other, he played a performer in Dave Edmunds' band. Maybe only Rachel can remember who Dave Edmunds was. And so he's got other talents as well. I could go on. He gives keynotes on cruise ships, let's put it that way. So a nice gigs around the world that he does. Brian J. Ford. The guy next to me on the other side is Michael Thomas. I ran the Chicago Marathon with him, and he's now at the University of Illinois, Chicago, and he was a guest in this class a few weeks ago. So you all know Michael. I was just chatting with him yesterday. So again, anything that we mentioned there in that third section, or why don't you write a note about your writing space? I'm curious to hear what your writing space. Just brief notes about where do you write from? Your basement, your bedroom, the cafes, Panera, Starbucks. Where do you write? Where are you most productive? So Rachel plays keyboards. Oh, you use your keyboard for writing. Okay, you don't play that kind of keyboard. Okay. Yeah, the real Kim, the real Leeuwenhoek, von Leeuwenhoek, the real guy, the real deal.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
It is amazing. I tell my students all the time about it. We have like this whole thing on history. I'm so sorry. I'm like so geeked out. So sorry.
Yeah, no, okay. If you want, Brian J. Ford, he got me a speak at Cambridge in the library. He retired from there a few years back, but he still writes books. He's got a book on dinosaurs being aquatic creatures. I mean, just amazing. He thinks that a single cell has some forms of intelligence in them, and he showed me slides of the eyeballs that you can see in a single cell in the mouth, and all sorts of strategic behaviors and whatnot. So Ben goes into work. Toddlers are not the best writing partners. Kitchen table. When my back is not sore, I do love the kitchen table too. I would agree with that. But the bedroom, Sunmei, okay, because she's escaping her kids. Patio. I like that, Shannon. Back patio. I do try to work on the patio. The problem is the chairs are too comfortable, and that hurts my back. I mean, it's too cushy. And that's not good for my back. But I love writing. Also, I wrote my book, the R2D2 book, from my patio, looking in the forest one I can't do that anymore. So a gamer, okay. Oh, your husband's a gamer, that's right, and he's a rock star. What's your husband play? A guitar, drums, or both, or saxophone, or?
Both drum, guitar, bass. Yeah, he plays a lot of stuff.
Does he play at home like he entertains at Christmas time for all your family?
No, he usually plays, he used to play with a band when COVID was not here and they play in a local bar. But once COVID is here, their band kind of just like, eh. And then right now you probably can see the drum. So that's where he usually plays when the kid is around. Sometimes when I
right.
get home, he will play, I can hear it from the basement.
Okay, can I get a request in here? In 3 weeks, our final class, could he maybe play a soft guitar song to close this class out? So whatever song he wants to play as the final, we'll have a toast with juice or coffee or wine or beer. We'll have a final toast for the end of this class. After we present our final projects to one another, we can have your husband play something for us. Is he willing to do that?
Yeah, I think so. We'll
Okay.
probably have my daughter join the session too, if you guys don't mind.
Yeah, she can sing.
She can sing Twinkle Twinkle Little Star pretty well.
Okay, that sounds good. All right, so we've got a plan. Okay, does anyone else play a musical instrument that want to join in this makeshift band? You do a virtual choir. Yeah, it's our last class. That's right. So we should have something to remember. So you as husband will give us whatever. So send me something, I'll email you and we'll talk about it. Yeah.
Okay.
So, okay. So we got one final part. It seems like everybody's got a different writing space, if you notice in there. I mean, no one's the same. Everyone's different. Before we go to the last section, does anyone want to make a comment? So people we haven't heard from in a while include Shannon. Any comments about writing spaces?
No, I just write, like I said, either in my office or if it's nice outside, I'll sit outside with the dogs and write on the back patio.
You have a wooden deck?
No, I do not. The yards in Milwaukee, as you might recall, they're measured in square feet.
Yeah.
So there's just this teeny tiny little table with a teeny tiny little piece of concrete underneath it.
Sounds like my mom's house. Okay.
Yeah,
where I grew up.
they're very, very small.
Is it a brick home?
Sadly, no, but it was built in 1928 and it does have all the original woodwork and plaster walls and everything. So it's pretty cool.
Is it the woodwork in the house? Is it painted in white or is it original grains of wood?
Only 2 bedrooms. The rest of it is all natural wood.
Great.
Yep.
Oh, well, lovely. Yeah. So who else before we go to the last part? Megan, we haven't heard. What about your writing space?
Oh, I wrote in the chat. I honestly usually sit in bed and write. I didn't used to do that, but I started doing it, I don't know, maybe a year ago, and it's been more productive somehow. I'm not really sure how, but
in the morning or night or any time in the day? Night,
usually night after the kids go to sleep. That tends to be the more productive time for me.
Yeah. Sun-Mei, you're the same. Writing from bed, is it night or during the day or all day?
Anytime, if I have time. Actually, teenager is more, bothering me right now. So actually, they never go to bed before 12 a.m. So usually, every time they came, to my room and then ask for help. So usually, whenever they are out of my room. So sometimes I put a note, leave me alone, don't enter my room, something like that. So actually, I changed my bedroom into the office. So right now, I'm using really big desk. This time I bought it, so it's really big. So I put multiple, laptop right now. So I'm really happy. Yeah.
So I'm gonna have to take the lead on this last part. I think Meina's gonna have to go in a second. I want to give her a chance to say goodbye, but let me present a couple slides here, Meina.
Thank you, everyone, for the opportunity. It's really nice meeting all of you virtually here. I will look forward to see you in the future. Bye. Thank you, Dr. Bonk, for the invitation. Thanks.
You are great, Meina. It's
Thank you,
always
Meina.
lovely to
Thank
have you
Thank
with
you.
us.
Thank
Yeah, and we're, oh, she's gone. So she and I have to present at 7:30 tomorrow morning to people in Bangladesh and helping people in Afghanistan. It's actually through the University of North Carolina. They have a special master's program for them or something like that. So they want us to talk about open ed and our 15 guidelines. So I've been, and yeah, I haven't practiced or anything on that. So, so this last part, maybe I'll just hit some highlights on, and we'll call it an evening. There's actually two little pieces. I'll hit some of them, and then you can read the slides on your own later on. But I should at least mention them because this is kind of important. It's on motivation. So, hang on a second. Let's see if I can share my screen. And so this is part 7 of that G3 of writing. Gentlemen, I've just completed a new novel. It is so good. I am not even going to send it to you. Why don't you just it? I'm not sure what that, okay. Maybe he's not done. 10 ways to make sure your writing happens. So this article is in the Inside Higher Ed by Christine Tully in 2020. Christine Tully. So she says binge writing results in procrastination, distraction, and dreading to sit that long. So don't binge write like I do. I binge write. Write for 1 hour a day, write for 5 minutes a day, write for short bits. You know, identify what your block of time is, what the beginning time is, what the ending time is. You know, briefly revisit what you previously wrote, briefly revisit your table of contents. Put your thesis on the wall next to you, get a cup of coffee, take a look. Prior to writing, carve out chunks of writing, that, you know, the big issues that are left in the paper. What pieces you have left for Monday, what pieces for Tuesday, what pieces for Wednesday. You know, rethink it, plan it out. Ease into writing by reviewing your plan, by reviewing your map, have a timer on. You know, don't do like Dr. Bonk does. Don't do it like Curt does and just, oh, I'll just review my plan all day and I'll clean my office for a month and, you know, all that stuff. And then I'll binge write for a couple of weeks straight and screw my back up. You know, that does happen. So have a timer. If you're going to review your plan, 15 minutes, 30 minutes, just spend 15 minutes on it. Don't spend the whole day on it. Remember that no writing is sometimes writing because you're thinking in your brain, you're reflecting on your brain, even when you're getting something from the fridge or looking outside. And then she says, often you're going to read at the same time you write. You're going to, but don't read too long. Just like I, you know, oh, I'm going to think I'll read a chapter in a book today. That might take the morning. No, set the timer for 15 minutes, 20 minutes, and then, you know, be done with it. Read when you have to, but don't spend the entire time reading. Now that's going to take that's a skill, I think. Save the busy work for the end, like the semicolons and the apostrophes and the brackets and, you know, fine tuning the APA, all that kind of stuff. And you can put notes to yourself to check the spelling on certain words and look. So of these things, I agree most with redundancies. At those fix the redundancies at the end. You know, you use the same word over and over again. You can find other words, but wait till the next time you go through it all. Close the project, map out or get ready for your next session. Save documents and email a copy to yourself. So, you know, when you're done for the day, send yourself an email with the version of the paper that you're working on. And basically you're saying, I'm done for today. I'm going to now go, you know, to Chocolate Mousse. I will now go to Lenny's and have a beer. I'll read the paper. I'll read, you know, a book, you know, but close it out by making sure you have a copy somewhere else besides your hard disk, somewhere in the cloud or somewhere in the email system, somewhere. So if your computer crashes, you can get it. And develop what typically will be a ritual for you. What are the things like my kombucha that I brought right here, right? And I have tea right here, and I have water right here, and I have elderberry juice. I have 4 things wrapped around me, and I'll also have berries and fruits and bananas or whatever sitting by me. She says, develop the writing day, what you expect is going to happen in that day. Have your rituals that you go through, systematize what you're doing, track what you're doing, create a checklist of things. Checklists are important, and you can, and I like having real simple things. Sometimes I'll give you what I've been doing lately. I have a checklist of 6 things to do during the next couple of days. When I do an extra thing, like someone says, Dr. Bonk, can you send me a rec letter and all? Can you do a recommendation for my dissertation, or can give me feedback? So I'll add that to the checklist, and I'll put a check mark by it, because those are things you've done. So Rachel asked for a rec letter, well, I'll send it off, or Sumi asked for a rec letter. It's not on my list. Well, I'll just add it to the list. It looks like I did a lot today. So all the things that you're doing, just add them to the list. And then you start seeing all the things that you're doing during the day that are extra stuff you hadn't planned on, that your boss, Rachel, at work has asked you to, or your colleagues have asked, well, you just add them into your checklist and you look great. So there's a couple other things about that, the article that 2 months later, a month and a half later, Christine Tully also pointed out, using Post-it notes as reminders, putting brackets in your text as a signal to you that it's incomplete thought, that you have to come back to it, maybe highlight it in a different color or more intensively or more boldly, that kind of stuff. Having word count goals, I'm not so sure about that. Have you done it? Sometimes that works for me. The Pomodoro method of, you're going to write for 25-minute chunks and take a 5-minute break and write for 25 minutes. That works for some people. And this is basically the Pomodoro method. Decide on the task, set the timer, work until the timer rings, then take a break, and then try it again, take another break. So what else is she saying? Yeah, don't be on social media too much, but you can reward yourself once in a while with some social media kinds of things. Get a standing desk like I did. That's, even ones that aren't hydraulic, the cheap standing desks are saviors. They're very, it's a good investment of time. Your chairs are a very good investment for your writing. Just having a good chair. There she's standing up. She can Rachel can put hers up, So how many of you have a standing desk? Just say yes if you have one, or if you've ever used a standing desk. Why don't you put in the chat window? And then in the chat window, what's your favorite social media when you want to escape from writing? If anything, where do you go? WeChat or Line or Facebook or Instagram or WhatsApp? Or what's Twitter? Nobody uses anymore, So she's saying write in short bursts. So bring happiness, bring joy, have it be impactful. There are 7 more. Oh, I have these in there. Okay. So she says one line or one page is better than nothing. Just getting something is good. Having some progress is good. Finishing is better than perfection. This is really important in becoming a successful writer. Perfection ruins the day. We can all be Beethoven, tinkering, but that comes later. Edits come later. You want to get ideas down first. You can edit all you want 8 times later, but first get junk out there. It's better to have frivolous junk written down than have of 3 pages than have perfect 2 sentences, right? Interruptions happen. Your kids will come, Ben. Your kids will come, Megan. Interruptions will happen. You got to adjust your schedule for that kind of thing. Meina said to work backwards from maybe where you're going to in the ending and think about what, the introduction later on. Write the abstract maybe at the end, But just try. Just do your best and be aware that you're going to have to change it a little bit later, and you're going to have to go to Chocolate Mousse. You're going to have to go get some tea at Panera. You have to find your favorite places that you like to go. And in Portland, they have lovely cafes. I mean, when I visit my son, I get so many different brew pubs and reward myself and there. If you get stuck, focus on the part that you enjoy most. Now, this is really critical. You know, I often write the limitations to an article and the ending of the article before I ever write the beginning, because I know they're going to be relatively easy for me. I know what the limitations are. You should be writing the limitations. You can write the limitations of your dissertation now. I mean, really, seriously. Why wait to the end? You could be writing the implications. You could just change them later. You could write the implications of your dissertation before you even defend your proposal. Literally, they're not that hard to do. But the problem is people wait to the end and then they're out of steam. Their fingers hurt, their brain hurts. Those are the two of the easiest things you can possibly do. And they can be done now. Why not just get them out of the way? And you feel really good. I've started writing my dissertation, you know, and have healthy drinks and sell health drinks and dilly bar chips at the end of the day. So I have all healthy food until the very end of the day. Then I pull out the dilly bars and whatnot. So that's it for today. We've gone through a lot. We've gone through a lot of the G3 of writing. I hope some of those ideas will get you motivated and think about motivation. Again, in the chat window, any things that help your motivation? What motivates you to write? Shannon, Sid Meier's Civilization. Well, Curt Squire, an IST alum, did his dissertation on civilization. And I met Sid Meier one day, I think it was when I visited the University of Michigan. He was the guest speaker in a class. I mean, Michigan, and the class in computer science got Sid Meier to be the guest speaker live, face to face. It's like amazing, you know. So yeah, Curt Squire.
Very cool.
Very cool. If you'd like to talk to Curt Squire, I'm happy to introduce you to him. His wife, Constance Steinkuhler, studied World of Warcraft. He studied civilization, and he's at UC Irvine now. So TikTok baby, Kim's a TikTok baby. Rachel's a Facebook. She gets me in Facebook a lot. I'm not all Pinterest. Okay, Pinterest. I invested money in that thing in the stock market. And they're kind of disappointed lately, but so is everything else. Sunmei, what's your favorite social media? Oh, Sunmei had to leave.
Sunmei had to leave.
Yeah, that's right. She told me ahead of time. So just final thoughts. How do you stay motivated?
I thought.
Go ahead.
I didn't want to interrupt, but I was thinking last week when Tiffany was talking about making positive associations. I find that really good whenever I want to adjust a bad habit, is to tack the thing I like to the thing that I don't necessarily want to start doing. And I like Shannon's comment. Oh,
you chain the things you like to the things you don't like. Yeah, I agree with that too. Kim, I will leave voice notes and then have them transcribed. I like that idea a lot. Now will more and more common as AI improves. There will be all sorts of AI-based mentors that will help you in your writing process. The best of the best mentors out there will be in an AI app that we'll all be downloading. It will all be comparing what AI app we're using in this class 10 years from now. It'll be about what AI app has helped you write your dissertation proposal. I mean, seriously. It'll come, Shannon, it'll come. So George Felicianos is working on AI writing project. Well, I wrote to George the other day. He didn't tell me this.
Oh, he posted on Facebook about it. He's going to write a book with an AI writing partner.
I have to get George in this class next semester as a guest. He's been a guest before in my R678 class. George is the distance learning chair in Canada at Royal Roads University in Vancouver Island. So good for George. He's AI. So I've been interested in that for a long time, actually. AI app for writing. Good. So I was on a team trying to write a big grant on some topic or whatever, and that might be the topic they selected. I jumped off the team. Yeah. Any final comments, Ben?
Oh, just for motivation, just kind of looking at it as like I owe myself, like I've come this far.
Yeah.
It's probably not the most positive outlook, but somebody's going to have to drag me out of the program. Like I'm just going to keep going.
You get a t-shirt, they're going to have to drag me out, right?
Yeah.
Something like that. I tell you, people are buying me t-shirts for my running thing, and they buy me day 900. I had to get to 900 because they bought me a shirt that I had to wear it, you know? So someone got me 1,000. So today was 969. So I'm 31 days away or so, I think. But she got me a shirt for did Sharon present in here a few weeks ago? Sharon Wong? Yeah, she did. So she got me the 1,000, a pink kind of sweatshirt I got to wear in 31 days. So yeah, I think tonight, maybe you got some ideas. I hope you got a few things across all the weeks. I've covered a lot of different tips or ideas about writing. We've had guests come in to give us some research related training. We've had prior students come in to get you ready for quals, to get you ready for dissertation proposal, defenses. We've had a variety of things over the 13 weeks we've had so far in this class. Next week, Thanksgiving. The week after, one-to-one with all of you. And then the week after that, we'll come back and listen to you as husband sing. I assume he can sing?
I don't think he can sing well.
Well, maybe you can sing for him. And then
maybe my kid can sing it for us.
There we go. So we'll have a toast. And so first we'll talk about our project in small meetings, and then with the whole group. We'll just be talking that final week. We'll be chatting about what you've done and what you're working on, and then we'll come all together, and then we'll have some singing. A little bit. We'll see. And a toast. Okay? You guys, I'm going to stop the recording at this point and just send me notes if you need anything for week